Okay, continuing with solving systems by elimination. Up at the top here, way back earlier in the year, we talked about how to write an equivalent equation. We talked about we could multiply that equation by any number as long as it was the same number. Multiply all three terms and it becomes equivalent. So for instance, I could multiply this whole equation by 2. And that would become 8x minus 4y equals 40. Or let's say I multiplied it by 100. If I multiply that by 100, it would become 400x minus 200y equals 2,000. So those are equivalent equations. Just to give you one more example down here, we'll just write one here. Let's say I multiply this by 3. That'd become negative 15x plus 12y equals 21. 7 times 3 is 21. Okay, so we're going to use that skill in order to solve problems that are not set up for simple elimination. Okay, so just as a little refresher, simple elimination, that's when everything's lined up and we got a pair that already cancels, like this example down at the bottom. The y's would cancel. We'd have 5x equals 10, divide by 5, and we get x equals 2. And then we plug it back in. I use that second equation, 2 times 2 plus y equals 5. And we could solve for y. So that would give us 4 plus y, and then we'd subtract 4 and get y equals 1. So we'd have a solution of 2, 1. Okay? It's nice if they're always set up like that, but it's not always going to happen. That's why we're going to use that skill to be able to write an equivalent equation. So if you turn the page, so here's how you're going to do that. Make sure both equations are first in standard form and everything is lined up. That has to happen first before you can decide if we need to change one of the equations. If neither the x's or the y's cancel, then you're going to multiply one, or sometimes you have to multiply both of the equations so that the x or y cancels. It doesn't matter which one you make cancel, the x or the y. We just need one of them to cancel. So then you're going to add the equations together and follow the same steps we've done before. Okay, so here's an example down here of how this could work. So if we have everything lined up with this problem, x's, y's, equal signs, we don't have simple elimination. So we need to change it. Now this one, you could actually make the x's or y's cancel out. We can make this negative 10x, and that cancel. Or we can make this 20y. These would cancel. Either one would work. Probably it's a little easier to eliminate the y's. If you already have one that's positive and one that's negative, then you don't have to worry about signs. We just have to match the numbers. So you'd have to ask yourself, what do I need to multiply by 5 to make it 20? Which would be 4, which is what this is showing down here. So if we multiply that equation by 4, it becomes 4x plus 20y equals negative 112. That is the only new step to what we're doing today with elimination. Once you get it there, it's just like what we've done before. We now see the y's cancel. We have 14x equals negative 112. And then we would divide by 14 and get negative 8. Now when you plug it back in, you can still plug it into any equation. I would stay away from plugging it into the one you multiplied by just because that usually gives you a lot bigger numbers you have to work with. But if you want to, nothing wrong there. So I'll use this first one, the x plus 5y equals negative 28. So we now know x is negative 8 plus 5y equals negative 28. So then we would add 8, get 5y equals negative 20, and then divide by 5. And we'd have y is negative 4. So there'd be our solution, negative 8, 4. So that's the new part we're adding today, being able to match up the equations where something cancels out. Turn the page, look at another example. This is just continuing with what we just did on that previous page. Okay, so here's an example of when you might have to multiply both equations. Doesn't happen as often, but it might happen. This is as hard as one of these can get. Now, these are lined up, and you'll notice there's nothing I can multiply 2 by to get 5, and there's nothing I can multiply 4 by to get 6. So we're going to have to multiply both equations. Here's the simplest way to do this. I would first try to eliminate the x, since one's positive and one's already negative. and just figure out what I need to multiply them by to make it what the product is if I multiply them together. So 5 times 2 is 10. So let's make this top one positive 10x by multiplying by 5, and we'll make this bottom one negative 10x by multiplying by 2. Essentially just multiply it by the other number. So then when we do that, that top equation becomes 10x plus 6 times 5 is 30y equals 5 times 2 is 10. And the second equation becomes negative 10x plus 8y equals negative 48. Now you'll notice we have simple elimination now, which is what we want. X's cancel. Get 38y equals negative 38. And then divide by 38. And you get y is negative 1. So we know y is negative 1. If we plug it back in, I'm going to go back and use that very first equation. So 2x plus 6 times negative 1 for y now equals 2. So 2x, that becomes minus 6 equals 2. Then we'd add 6, get 2x equals 8, then divide by 2. And we get x is 4. So our solution would be 4, negative 1. So that would be as hard as one of these can get, where we have to multiply both equations by number in order to make a paired cancel. Okay, just to show you one more example of that. Up above here, that's just the notes continuing with what we just finished. I just wrote it all together on that previous page. So let's look at this one here. So x's and y's are lined up, so we got to figure out how to make something cancel again. Now here, y's, one's positive, one's negative. So I would use the y. Similar numbers to what we looked at last time. So 5 times 2 is 10. So I'm going to multiply this top one by 2 to make that positive 10y. I'm going to multiply this one by 5 to make that negative 10y. So that becomes 8x plus 10y equals 200 for the first equation. Second equation becomes 15x minus 10y equals 30. And now we have simple elimination. Our y's cancel. That becomes 23x. And then 20 plus 30 is 230. Divide by 23. And you get x is 10. And then we do the same thing, plug it back in. I'll use the first equation. 4 times 10 for x plus 5y equals 100. So that becomes 40 plus 5y equals 100. Subtract 40. And now we have 5y equals 60, and then divide by 5. And when you do that, you get y is 12. So we get a solution of 10, 12. Okay, so you can use that to complete the homework that goes along with this.